Hello and welcome to the Oxygen Addict Triathlon Podcast. We're brought to you every week by our sponsors, precisionhydration.com.
Precision Hydration offer electrolyte drinks in different strengths to match how you sweat. Personalise your hydration strategy today at precisionhydration.com and get a free box or tube of pH worth up to $9.99 using the code OxygenAddict.
We're also brought to you by foodcell.co.uk.
The next generation of top tube nutritional carriers for your bike, designed to allow endurance triathletes and cyclists to carry enough food and gels while allowing easy access. Use the code FREEPOST for free delivery. Check it out at foodcell.co.uk.
Also brought to you by fueledbycake.com. I nearly fluffed that there,
Fooled by Cake.
Fooled by Cake. That's book 3's title for you.
Oh, don't go there. That's my charity cake recipe book. Thank you very much for everyone so far who has placed their order. Loads of yummy cake recipes, some that you can take on bike rides, others just pure joy. Recipes from Chrissy Wellington and Emma Pooley, Laura Siddle, Rachel Joyce and Rob Znan. Get yours at fueledbycake.com for just £10.
And finally, we're brought to you by teamoxygenaddict.com triathlon coaching.
Helping hundreds of age group triathletes see huge improvements in their 70.3 and Ironman performances. The time training system makes sure that you get the important training done each week in a way that complements the rest of your life.
All right, everybody, and welcome to the show. It's February, isn't it, Hells? Let's be honest. And I'll tell you one thing I'm not doing today. I'm not calling spring's on the way. After the abuse we've had on social media over the last week, it turns out that I'm essentially like Jack Frost.
Yes, I think a few people did say, what's this about spring on the way?
It's getting lighter, but it ain't getting warmer.
Well, it is now. We're now in a heat wave, Rob.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, apparently so. Interestingly, I've been over in North-West Wales just for the night, right? And we drove over yesterday.
Okay.
And oh my God, it was just stunning. If you know that part of the world and you're sort of like going Bala kind of way and then Porthmadog sort of way, but you go basically over the top, it was just incredible. White everywhere.
I bet it was, yeah. How exciting. Did you go sledging?
No, didn't go sledging. Oh. No. I just took my mum away for the night. It was really nice. Came back today and it was about 8 degrees warmer and everything was green. It's
amazing how things change in 24 hours, isn't it?
Yeah. It was so stunning though. Just looking around and the sun today the sun was shining on Snowdonia and I was like, I'm so glad that I, grew up kind of not too far from this part of the world. It's just so nice.
It's cool, isn't it? Well, I'll tell you what, we had some people from America contact us over Facebook and say, you Brits don't know what you're moaning about. It's minus 35 degrees centigrade here today. Can you imagine?
No. I think we got down to minus 30 when we were out in Canada. And that was, you just did not go outside with things not covering, with clothing not covering you, basically. So yes, you can go outside, obviously, but you've got to be prepared, very prepared. Like I would not walk out without hand warmers and gloves, and you get everything on before you even walk out the door. A listener, Rob, actually, Nancy, ordered a copy of Fueled by Cake, and I had to go and post it to Canada, right near Niagara Falls, and I sent her a little message saying the guy in the post office, when I said, oh, this is going to Canada, was like, yeah, good luck with that getting out there because of the big freeze going on.
Did you see those videos of people with like a thermos flask of boiling water out in Chicago area, chucking it up into the air, and it turned into snow clouds as it left the thermos? It's unreal.
I need to look at that because I had heard, but I haven't seen it, so I need to look at it.
It's mad. All right, so listen, we've got a few bits and bobs of triathlon excitement happening around the world. Most notably, we've had some racing out in Dubai, haven't we, this weekend? So first things first, later on, stay tuned because we've got an interview with Terenzo Bozzone back on the show. great to hear he's doing loads better after his horrific crash, after being basically hit and run by what they think was a logging truck in the middle of last year. So we had him back on, and I tell you what, Hels, his story is just amazing. I saw those stories about, I always come back and he's won the 70.3. But as you'll hear in the interview later on, he'd how many days running do you think Terenzo would have done before turning out like a 1:15 half marathon at Western Sydney 70.3?
Oh, honestly,
Yeah,
I don't know, a week or two of running?
Exactly that. There's me going, Terenzo must have been back in training for ages. He just basically rocked up. He'd been running for 8 days before the race. So it's just an amazing story of, like, he's still managing some of the symptoms from this crash. So it's just not the story I was expecting to hear from him anyway. So that's awesome. That's coming up later on in the show.
I'm very much looking forward to listening to that.
Now, before we go on to do results today, big shout out to our sponsors. We've got back with us foodsell.co.uk. So if you've not heard of Foodsell before and you're looking for a natty solution for carrying food or gels or flapjacks or whatever on your bike when you're either out training or when you're racing, Foodsell are the product for you. They are not one of these little tiny slinky top tube things that you can't get food into or out of as you're riding along. They've got a really clever sliding mechanism on the top that allows you to get into and out of with one hand as you're riding, which is really cool. You can fit 4 of those big fat gels inside it, which is saying something. It's been designed in the CFD wind tunnel simulator thing, so it actually reduces the drag of a lot of the high performance bikes rather than adding to it. It's got little bolts on, so you can bolt it to the top tube if you've got those bolts there, or it comes with these slinky little wraparound Velcro type doodads if you haven't got those bolts on the top. It's just all round, I think, the best top tube solution for carrying food, especially if you need to get into and out of it as you're moving quickly, which we all do in races. Right, so it's awesome to have these guys back on. They're a British company. I think there's loads of people are not even starting to consider yet their race season coming up. But as we get closer to race season, this is going to be the thing that's on your mind. How am I going to carry the stuff I need to do for racing? So good news is take advantage of these offers for podcast listeners. If you use the code FREEPOST at checkout, you're going to get that delivered for free. Usually that would be about £5 for postage because it comes with a courier company. So that's really good. And second cool thing that's happening, Hells, they are official partners to the Outlaw, just like we are. So if you buy yourself one of these Foodsells between the 1st of February and the 19th of March, and you opt in on the little clicky box as you buy your Foodsell on the website, you're going to get entered into a draw to win an entry for the Outlaw Half Nottingham with every Foodsell bought between the 1st of February and the 19th of March. So there's terms and conditions and all that usual stuff which you need to read on the website because you can't move your entry to another race or another year or another person. But who cares about that? It's a super bonus because what you really want is a Foodsell which is going to carry all your stuff around for you. So get on it over at foodsell.co.uk.
Awesome.
Did I sound sufficiently excited about that? I was quite excited about the prospect of getting food out one-handed. I was like, oh yeah, I remember trying to faff with that in the past and how good it was at the Lakesman last year with one hand. Awesome.
Rob, I saw a photo of a podcast listener on camp in Lanzarote recently, and they had taken a photo of their nutrition for the day. They were going out on a long ride, frozen Mars bars / frozen Snickers a la Lucy Charles, and guess what they were in?
Were they really?
They were in a Foodsell.
Nice. Good. Well, get on it, listeners. Go over and check it out at foodsell.co.uk and get yourself one. We think it's great, and you should get one too. Right, Hells, out in Dubai this weekend. It was not snowing. It was very warm and there was some roasting hot racing happening out there. And we had wins for both Holly Lawrence and Adam Bowden in, unfortunately, the big races on the men's side we hoped for didn't really pan out, did it?
No, Ali Brownlee did not race, obviously. So he did not race.
A couple of days before, wasn't it, that they thought he wasn't going to be racing and he ended up not doing.
No, he didn't. And then Christian Blumenfeld, who, again, you could have tipped him really for the Triple Crown, couldn't you, after his performance just before Christmas. He had really, really bad cramping. So he unfortunately didn't finish. So yeah, but that then left Adam Bowden, Patrick Nielsen to sort of fight it out, I guess. But Bowden did a 1:10 run, Rob.
No, and good luck living with that. If you were racing anybody else, that's legit, isn't it?
Yeah.
1:10 half marathon.
Yep. Superb running.
Yeah, smoking fast day actually, 3:40 for Adam Bowden. So he's really coming through at the 70.3 distance, isn't he? Really sort of stacking those good results back to back. So that's great to see.
Yep, and he finished ahead of Patrick Nielsen, who finished in 3:42, and then Sebastian Freys of France in 3:47. But then, as you say, wins for Holly Lawrence. Again, great to see her back. She did a 4-hour, pretty much 4 hours flat,
wasn't it? Yeah.
Yep. Out the water. Wasn't it a basically she was first out the swim, first off the bike, and then first over the line as well.
The wire-to-wire win, as they call it. Yeah, despite, I believe Anne Haug put together a fairly scorching half marathon as well. Did she do a 1:16, something like that?
Yep.
So ran 4 minutes into Holly Lawrence. But if you've got that lead off the bike, then you can afford to put it into cruise control a bit, can't you? And yeah, looks like she's done the job. Really good stuff.
Did the job. And then Sarah Lewis was third in 4:09, and Fenella Langridge fifth in 4:16.
Cool stuff. And that was pretty much all the racing we could find that's happened around the world this weekend, really, wasn't it?
Yeah, there wasn't a whole load going on, but Rob, we have an exciting few weeks ahead now, don't we? Because we'll have the Super League coming up in Singapore. We'll have, World Triathlon Series starting, and then all the races that will be going on in sort of New Zealand, Australia. Yeah, so it's good. It's starting to hot up a little bit.
Starting to hot up, yeah. And before you know it, we're going to be Ironman New Zealand, aren't we?
Yes.
That must be about 4 weeks away, mustn't it? 5 weeks, maybe.
There's Challenge Wanaka as well. Challenge Wanaka.
Oh, yeah. Exciting stuff.
Yeah, but great.
Good. Well, that leads us on quite nicely to today's interview with Kiwi Terenzo Bozzone. Our interview of the week is sponsored by our friends over at precisionhydration.com. Now, if you guys haven't been over there yet, check out their website where they've got a free online sweat test where you can get a good lead as to whether you're a particularly heavy or particularly salty sweater by simply answering some questions on their online sweat test there. And if it points towards the fact that you are, you can do an in-person sweat test and actually just have a relatively quick, totally pain-free sweat test done, and that'll give you the exact concentration and the exact amount of sweat that you lose per hour, which is really, really good to know. So if you've ever struggled with cramp or you've ever struggled with racing in the heat, Precision Hydration make, I think, the best solution for electrolytes on the market. Really, really good tasting product. It's not really salty like it used to be back in the day. You just mix it in with your energy drinks and away you go, and it's got you completely covered, and you can then get yourself your own personalized strength of electrolyte drinks there. And for listeners, you can use the code Oxygen Addict at checkout to pick up £9.99 worth of free product and give it a try completely risk-free, which is awesome. All right, so today's interview, as we mentioned a little bit earlier, Terenzo was one of my favourite interviews from last year. And then when we heard he'd been hit by this truck and left in a life-threatening condition earlier in the year, I was just heartbroken for the guy. So it was great to get him back on. As I alluded to earlier, the interview didn't go the way I was expecting it to go, because I was expecting him to sort of say, yeah, it was rough for a while and things are all good again now. But as you're going to hear, that wasn't quite the case. So without further ado, here we go. Terenzo Bozzone is our interview of the week. Terenzo, welcome back onto the show. It's really good to be back talking to you, and it's also really good to hear you're still alive, man. How are you feeling?
Thanks, Rob. Thanks for having me back.
You had us worried there, buddy. I tell you had us worried for a while.
Yeah, a few people. I'm glad I could put my wife's worries away. But I think still every time I jump on the bike, she's a nervous wreck at the moment, but I was hoping it would have subsided by now, but we're slowly getting there.
Yeah, I reckon. Well, for people who don't know the story, obviously you were subjected to a horrific crash in the middle of this summer when you were out training, and from what I read on the internet, details are still pretty sketchy. But let's talk about that to start with, man. Basically, what happened? You were out training on your bike, and you just got caught in a hit and run, essentially, right?
Yeah, some old man and I were out a medium quiet country road, and we're just doing some aero testing. So Argon 18 have the Nocio device, which gives you real-time aero data. So we were just going back and forward on the same stretch of road, collecting some data and just trying a few different positions, seeing if there was any difference. And we're about to start our last run. So I had basically 3K, 2Ks left of my second to last run, and I didn't come back. Dad was waiting for me at the start to change a few bits and pieces on the bike, and didn't end up coming back. And unfortunately, I don't have any memory of the crash. I'm not kind of one to be too wheezy. I don't mind the sight of blood. I'm pretty practical when it comes to all that kind of stuff. So I don't think it's my subconscious blocking it out. I just think whatever happened must have happened pretty quick, knocked me out before I knew what was going on. And I remember waking up in hospital at about 11 p.m. that night. Apparently I was still conscious after the crash. Apparently a lady found me on the side of the road. I unlocked my phone and called my wife, and I was talking. I don't think I was making much sense, but I was talking. And first memories were about 11 o'clock at night, kind of waking up in hospital. And most of that day is still a blank. My dad, when I woke up in the hospital, Dad was like, "Yeah, I was out there with you." I'm like, "What are you talking about? Why would you be out there with me?" And he explained what we were doing, and I started to ring a few bells. But it's just a very scary thing, and to think how much experience I've had riding my bike and being in tricky situations. I've been basically a professional for over 20 years now, and spent a lot of time on the road. So I generally, whenever I go out, I know how risky and how dangerous it is. So I always have my wits about me, and I'm always I'm always prepared. I'm always vigilant, and prepared for anything to happen, and trying to read situations. So for that to happen to me, it just makes it really scary for novices or young people. Kind of, I just think back to when I was 13, 14 years old, and being in some situations that I've been in recently. It just doesn't leave any hope for people wanting to get into it. But I'm hoping we can do something. It's probably, I know there's different cultures around the world that kind of embrace cycling a bit better. Europe, a few places in Europe are really good. New Zealand really has to kind of jump on board and do something a little bit better, and so does same with a few other places. But it's
Well, it's one of those things, isn't it, where me and my buddies were out cycling the other day and talking about this and saying cycling isn't, from the outside, it's not rock climbing, it's not base jumping, it's not something you consider to be inherently a risky sport, in inverted commas, and all the risk is in the hands of other people around you, the road users, the car drivers, or a lot of it is certainly. There's an element of you not being able to control other people's actions, isn't there, which, as you alluded to, I grew up and went out for a bike ride with my dad. I'm looking at the state of the roads for my 7-year-old son and thinking, wow, I'm not sure I'd want him out on I know I don't want him out on some of the roads. And we live in a relatively quiet area.
Yeah, it's a shame, and it's, well, I understand there's cyclists who do things to piss off motorists and vice versa, but I think there definitely has to be courtesy from both sides, but the thing that some drivers don't understand is if they touch you with their car, it could be the end. It's not like you have a metal box or anything protecting you, just a little bit of Lycra. Yeah, that wears down pretty quickly.
Well, I'm glad you've recovered as well as you have. What was the immediate aftermath of the accident then? You said you found yourself woken up in hospital, and we all saw these photos on social media, and you looked in a pretty bad state, mate, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I was. My face was getting stitched up, and my wife kept trying to walk into the room to help me out, or to hold my hand and stuff, but kept having to walk out. She's a little bit queasy when it comes to that stuff. Oh. Yeah, apparently it was just like a tomato had been split. But half of my cheek was split open. my whole cheekbone had been broken. So it's attached to your head and attached to your skull in 4 places, and it had been broken off in all 4 of those places. So so I was at Auckland Hospital. That's where they took me straight away. The following day, they decided to move me to Middlemore Hospital, which is further, like, kind of South Auckland, where they specialize. They have the facial and plastic surgery special team. And when I got there, they actually decided that they would just wait for the concussion symptoms the swelling in the brain to just subside a little bit before they put me under general to fix my cheekbone.
Okay. And then, in terms of, it almost seems irrelevant, doesn't it, to then go on to talk about racing when you're just kind of glad to have survived something as horrific as this. But obviously, you mentioned, you had these injuries to your face, but you also had, I think you had a busted up hand. Your leg was smashed up pretty good as well. But then almost immediately you're on social media talking about getting back into training, and we're like, how's that work?
Broken hand, a few other holes here and there. My Achilles flared up pretty bad, which didn't settle down, which in hindsight may have been just my body's way of slowing down my progression in order for the head injury to subside a little bit more. But I kind of said to myself straight away, I need something to move forward to, and I set my sights back on Kona. And the year had been going great. I'd done a really good build up previous to that over in Hawaii. My numbers were looking better than ever, and I was just really looking forward to going to Kona and trying to work on improving my 6th place from 2017. And so I set that as a goal. Really helped me get out of bed every morning and just keep moving forward or moving in the right direction with my little bit of exercise that I could do. I was actually in seeing a concussion specialist, I think 3 or 4 days after the accident, who did a test on the wind trainer, just looked at my numbers, and we kind of went from there. They have a test where they look at I guess how the concussion symptoms progress and at what wattage that is, and then they give you a training program off there. So you're actually doing 30 to 40 minutes of exercise a day, lower intensity that doesn't bring on the concussion symptoms, but apparently that little bit of intensity actually helps with the brain healing.
Wow.
So letting me loose and doing a little bit of exercise, that was all I needed to kind of kickstart the motor again and feel like I could be back on top of the world. But I kept trying. The headaches were still kind of prevalent and coming and going right up until the basically early October. I wasn't actually back running on the road until mid-November, and so it was Kona was definitely not meant to be. But I did put everything in that basket of trying to get there. I actually went there with my coach and training buddy and physio for 2 weeks in September for a little training camp. And that was kind of a big eye opener as to things that probably wouldn't be happening within the next few weeks after that. But I still making that decision was really hard, but it was definitely the right decision to make, and I was really happy when I actually managed to keep progressing through October, November, and get a couple of results on the board before the end of the year.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, we'll come to those results in a minute, because that's something else that's fairly astonishing to talk about. But I want to go back for a second, and you mentioned a minute ago, you said, your old Achilles injury flared up, and you felt that maybe that was your body's way of trying to hold you back a bit. Are you a big believer in that kind of holistic look at the big picture? Maybe your body's got a bit of wisdom to tell you what's going on in hindsight after this accident.
Yeah, for sure. I'm definitely a big believer of fate and everything happening for a reason. While the Achilles was very, very, very frustrating. And like I said, the headaches were still there, and I could take something from the end of the day. Like at the end of the day, I could say to myself, I'm doing everything I can to progress this as quickly as I can. If it's not going to happen, it's not going to happen. But I'm very fortunate to be in the situation I am in. I'm very fortunate to be alive. I'm very fortunate to have a wife and a family that love me. I'm very fortunate to have 2 healthy kids, and there's a lot of positives, and it's just that kind of kept things in perspective, and kept me optimistic moving forward.
You sound like an incredibly positive character. I mean, it's easy to say all this stuff, but it sounds like you genuinely mean you're like, this is what you read in a book about positive thinking, isn't it? List all the positive things that go on in your life. And I'm thinking, God, man, this dude's just been hit by a truck when he was in the form of his life.
Thanks, Rob. Yeah.
Is it something that you think? Well, I mean, it's something that I definitely think must play a part in your what must have been a rapid recovery in the eyes of the doctors to come back from this. I mean, obviously it didn't happen fast enough for you to go to Kona, but in the bigger picture, it's pretty amazing you got into the shape that you did in time for the races in Australia come December time, wasn't it?
Yeah, thanks. I look at my life. I'm very blessed with the life I have. The people around me, my close team. I'm very fortunate to have good people around me and good people advising me through all that. So I couldn't. I mean, yeah, there was no real point in throwing a pity party. Although there were sometimes that there were definitely days here and there that there was a pity party, but like I said, it was just very reassuring for me to know that I would make a full recovery. It was just a matter of when, and just to know all the positives that I do have in my life, and the one thing which kind of goes back to triathlon, I guess, is when I woke up in the hospital. It was actually the second day, so I woke up on the day after the accident, or the day of the accident, and the next day they transferred me to another hospital. And kind of when I was a little bit lucid, I started thinking, well, if ever there was a time to kind of move on with life and find a new direction, this would be a perfect excuse. And to be honest, I didn't even need to think about it very well at all. Really, it just came straight to me that I've still got unfinished business in the sport, and the journeys and the adventures that we've been on so far have been so much fun and so fulfilling to me and my family. And I'm not ready for that to finish. And like I said, I still have some big goals that I would like to achieve in the sport.
Nice. So talk us through. When you finally did get back to racing, it was a fairly, again, for you it seems normal, but for anyone else, fairly astonishing back-to-back wins. 70.3 Western Sydney one weekend, and then 8 days later to win Western Australia. Like, first up, man, what goes through your head when you schedule back-to-back races at the weekend like that?
Trust me, the Western Sydney was a very, very big surprise to me and everyone in my camp, really. Was
it just to turn up and see how you feel at Western Sydney, see how it goes, and let's dip your toe back in it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was kind of test the Achilles, see how the Achilles went, and training numbers on the bike and swimming had been quite good, but it was all relative. Like how was that going to play out in a race, and the other thing we wanted to test was just how my head would hold out, just to make sure no concussion symptoms would come up. There would be no effects, like no headaches or anything after the race. So I wanted to get that done in a half Ironman. Before I kind of tackled a full Ironman, and I really did want to finish the season with a full Ironman. And unfortunately, I only got back running on the road about 2 weeks before Western Sydney, so I was stuck on the Ultra G until then. The Achilles kind of wouldn't. It was progressing well, but just not fast enough, so by the time I was on the road, it gave me one good week of running on the road and one week of tapering, and so I wasn't expecting much going into that race, especially with the field that they had: Sam Appleton, Tim Reed, Burkle. It was pretty top field. So I thought my goal going into it was to have a good swim and a good bike, which I did. Unfortunately, I didn't get rid of Sam Appleton on the bike. He was riding pretty well, but I mean, again, he's having a stellar year. So I just got on the bike. I got on the run, and my goal was to run about anything under 120 was going to be a big achievement. And we started the run. I said to Appo, I think we got 10 minutes on the nearest guy, Appo. So you got this, buddy. Just try to be gentle on me. Let me run with you for a few Ks. And we got to about 4 Ks in, and he started showing some signs of weakness, and I got a sniff. Felt like my old self again. Got a sniff of his weakness, and pounced on him straight away. And I was just, when I got to the finish and I had run a 1:15 for the half, I was blown away. But the bad thing about that was, from going into the race with very, very low expectation, and running a 1:20, but beating that by 5 minutes, all of a sudden, going into the following weekend for Ironman Western Australia, the expectation was a little bit higher, not only from myself, but other people around me as well. Thought that I'd just been bullshitting basically along the way, and but trust me, I hadn't. Dan Plough is my coach, and we just haven't got around to it. But he was like, I'd just love to put together the run training that you actually did, or the lack of run training that you actually did before those races, and just show everyone that we're not making up lies,
not sandbagging.
Not sandbagging, but. And then going into Western Australia the following weekend, I was fortunate I had my physio there with me, and I just had to keep talking it down. I'm like, I said to him the day before we were driving in to drop the bike off, and I'm like, hey man, I'm really struggling here. I'm putting all this pressure and expectation on myself after last weekend, and I'm just thankful to be here. I'm thankful to be doing this. And he's like, yeah, hell yeah, it's going to be interesting tomorrow. It's going to be, what it is. But, it's just good to be here, and it's good to be here with you. And just having his, his lack of expectation on me, and his perspective of things, and just wanting to be there to support me to get to the finish line. Help take that pressure off, which I kind of needed those final days going into the race.
Yeah. Okay. And then, for the listeners who don't know, your race at Western Australia was only a couple of minutes slower than your course record that you set there. Did you go 7:56 this year? And the course record was 7:52 or something like that. So, I mean, talk about. I mean, you say you go in with no expectations, and clearly you're really, really low on run training in general and run volume and all of that. So, how did the race play out? And I remember Cam Wurf was racing, wasn't he, and set a course record on the bike.
Yep. So Cam was there, and it was going to be exciting racing him. I thought when he came past, I would be able to hang with him for a few Ks. Going into, I'm not going to hide anything. Going into both Western Sydney and Western Australia, I knew my biking, and like the numbers that I was putting out in training were pretty good in the biking and the swimming. And that was that. So Western Australia, I had a really good swim. I managed to push the pace really hard and get a little bit of a gap on the group. So I came out the water a minute ahead of the group, which is pretty foreign for me. I'm never a swim leader. I'm always kind of that front pack or thereabouts. But to be able to get away was quite a big step up for me. And then onto the bike, I thought, okay, cool. I was not surprised isn't the right word, but I was, I guess, gutted that Cam Wurf was only a minute in that group, only a minute back. I thought I'd have a little bit more of a buffer on him. And so when he came past at about 15, 20 kilometers into the bike, I rode with him for about 2 kilometers and realized, my heart rate's a little bit high, my power's a little bit high. I need to, I made this mistake last year where I rode too hard for too long and paid the price big time, and I needed to just back off and ride to my race, which I did. And the deficit to Cam, it did grow, but it was quite slow. He slowly edged away from me. I think by the end of the bike he was around 4 minutes up on me, and that was again a pretty good achievement. To be that close to Cam Wurf off the bike was it was definitely another big tick. And then the unknown was the run, and we started the run, and I thought I was running quite well until I got a few splits along the way and saw Cam Wurf was actually running better than me, and his gap was growing, and at that point it was I guess an easy easy place for me to go, okay, cool, so Cam's going to have the day of his life, and I should just chill out and conserve and just try to get to the finish line, or do I keep the pressure on? Do I stay racing and just see what happens along the way? And I'm glad I made the decision to not sandbag and bring it. And yeah, basically at the 30-kilometer mark, I had caught Cam, but that's when things got really hairy. I caught him. He let me go, and then I had to let him come back to me because I had nothing. I thought I was going to have to stop and walk at this point.
Really?
He caught up at 30 k's, and I had a little bit of a tailwind section, and I thought, okay, cool. I'll have to give it a go. If I can break him here, I'll get a little bit of adrenaline, and hopefully I'll be able to just get away. And thankfully I did, and thankfully, yeah, his legs were a little bit more gone than mine, and yeah, hung on. Just kept thinking. The one thing that I was thinking about was my kids, and just wanting to set an example of not giving up for them, and doing the best you could, and that's all I could do.
How conscious were you during the race of thoughts around like having come back from the accident? Did any of that enter into your head at any point, or were you kind of entirely in the race zone?
Yeah, definitely in the race zone. I must say the thinking about my kids and wanting to set an example for them was probably stemmed more from the recovery of the accident, rather than my usual race mentality.
Yeah.
So that's that part of it did play into it a little bit. But yeah, I guess the weekend previous in the half Ironman took all that doubt and the doubt, excitement of racing my first race back, all that stuff, all those thoughts that were going through your head of the accident and the comeback.
Yeah.
The race the weekend before kind of took all that out of my head.
And I guess it's easy for us. I was sitting here reading articles about you online, and you come back, you win the 70.3, and the assumption is, oh, he's back, he's made a full recovery. But it's interesting to hear you then talk and sort of say you were still monitoring like the headaches, you were still checking out what effect it would have on you in terms of, the sort of the ongoing symptoms of the concussion. Did that stay with you then for a really long time, the having to manage that, checking in on whether you had got symptoms still of the concussion in particular?
Yeah, I still actually have to monitor it a little bit and just be careful with certain things.
Wow.
Yeah, drinking. I love a beer, especially down here. It's summer at the moment, so I love a beer. But as soon as I kind of go a beer and a wine, a little bit of a headache comes on.
Oh, okay.
So I just need to just be careful in that department. I find diet has a little bit of an effect. So if I'm having as long as I keep eating clean and healthy, I seem to operate and function a little bit better. If I don't, then things just start getting a little bit hazy. And it wasn't really until, I guess, the week before, 10 days before Western Sydney, that the 70.3, that I actually felt like I was close to my normal self mentally, like my daily motivation, the get up and go every day to just tackle the day in front of me was felt a little bit normal. Whereas before that, I was really struggling just to look at my computer and to answer emails and so on and so forth. But and then even after kind of going into December, going into Christmas, I felt quite close to my normal self, but I wouldn't say that I was back to 100%. But now the year started, my training is going really well. I'm I think 4 weeks into a decent block, just starting my fifth weekend back to training, and recovery seems to be happening quite quickly. So back to normal on the recovery side. The head seems to be operating quite well. Motivation seems to be good. So I think if I'm not 100%, I'm pretty close to it.
Brilliant, man.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned there sort of you're obviously really sensitive right now to if you have a couple of beers, something flares up. If you eat outside of the norms of being really clean, something flares up. I think that'd be really interesting to talk about for the listeners in terms of obviously you're extremely in tune with your body, and probably us normal age groupers are not. What are some of the things that you notice when, first of all, like, define what eating clean for you means? What would the sort of the perfect diet be, and then how do you veer away from that, and what effects do you feel?
So I get there's something called the human interference factor. So food that's modified or a lot of stuff's gone into, that's not just pure clean basic food.
I like that, the human interference factor.
So I'm not. Yeah, so just kind of clean food, covering a good, healthy, balanced diet works really well for me. So hey, don't get me wrong. I'm the first to admit that I do crack. I do like a beer. I do like candy. I do have a bit of a sweet tooth. Licorice is probably my go-to, but chocolate biscuits are also a weakness. And yeah, those things. If I find if I do crack and kind of have indulged a little bit too much on that side of things, it does come back and bite me in the butt.
Interesting. And so finally, just to wrap this up, Terenzo, how is the rest of the year going to play out for you in terms of race plans and your ultimate goal, presumably building towards Kona 2019?
Yeah, Kona. Basically, everything's revolved around Kona this year. So last year I really wanted to get in the top 5, improve on my 6th place from 2017. This year, I guess, top 5, top 3 would be awesome. Working towards getting on the top of the podium there. So Dan and I had a pretty good plan in place last year. Obviously worked really well for him because he
didn't it, huh?
Yeah, he ended up cracking the age group world record, winning the age groupers by a good 10 minutes or so. So we did a couple Kona camps which seemed to work really well for him. So we'll run a similar kind of plan on that front. Race wise, I'll do Ironman New Zealand, which is in the beginning of March, about 5 weeks away, and following that, the ITU long distance world champs, which are in Spain in May. That's kind of been something that's been at the back of my mind for a few years, and I'd just really like to go after that. The timing of it works quite well. It means doesn't really interfere with my Kona preparation, and then there'll just be a few 70.3s put in there along the way.
And all right, last question then. Having seen how fast your coach Dan Plews went at Kona this year, did you have a moment where you sat there and thought, I'm going to run the numbers and have a think what I think I could have done?
Yeah, I've been going back and forward between two thoughts. There's that thought. It's like, holy shit, he went quick. I definitely run a little bit quicker than him.
Yeah.
I don't know how much.
And what did he run? He ran
a
251, was it?
250 or 251.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then there's the side that goes, oh shit, it would have been embarrassing if Dan ran quicker than me.
Hey, well, Dan ran quicker than just about everybody apart from 4 pros, didn't he? So there'd have been no shame there. Yeah. It's good he's raising your game, though.
He is. He's a great guy to work with. He's a good friend. We've had a lot of fun along the way, and hopefully the journey has a lot more exciting stuff ahead of us.
Well, exactly. Hopefully the journey does have a lot more in store for you, man. Listen, thank you so much for taking the time to come on and talk to us. I'm so glad to hear that you've bounced back as well as you have, and it's almost like Terenzo 2.0 from now on. There's no pressure, and every day is a bonus, isn't it?
It is. Cheers, Rob. Yeah, good to be on again, and great that we were able to catch up.
Well, pencil us in for after Kona. We want to hear the story of the podium there, man.
Love it. Will do.
So it was crazy to hear, Hells, that the poor guy was still struggling with like random headaches, and if you push too hard in training, he'd get these really bad headaches, and sort of managing that long-term after effects of being horribly concussed and having his face operated on. So to have those results at 70.3 West Sydney, and then Western Australia, the full Ironman was totally amazing, especially given how hard he had to race to catch Cam Wurf in the marathon at Western Australia. It's just an amazing comeback story.
It reminds me a little bit of James Cracknell.
exactly what I was thinking as I was listening to him. Yeah.
Yeah, it does remind me a little bit that he had a really bad accident, didn't he, when he was doing
basically the same thing happened, wasn't it? As he was doing the race across America, he got hit from behind. Yep. I think he got hit by the wing mirror of a truck, didn't he?
Yeah, and he said that, it's sort of like it was a brain injury effectively, and his personality changed a little bit because of it.
Yeah, quite considerably for a while, I think, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. So it reminded me a bit of that, but to have come back and had the results that Terenzo's had, it's really, really happy for him,
Yeah. And I love that, talking about the thing that motivates him is just wanting his kids to be proud of him. And that really made me choke up. I was just thinking, wow, after coming back from this basically life-threatening injury, to have that be the driving force as you're chasing down Cam Wurf, I just think, and he's such a nice guy as well. He really is. I would really, really love to see him get on the top of the podium at Kona, just because he is genuinely one of those really nice guys that you meet every now and again. So, yeah.
And I bet everyone sort of has a
favourite.
When it No. I was going to say, well, clearly we know mine's the Norwegian, but I was going to say, more when you're going through a really rubbish patch in a race, and or even in training, if you're struggling and you have to really go back to why are you doing this, and it's an important thing to be able to think about, that actually, why are you doing this? Why'd you do it?
Yeah.
And for him, if that's to he wants to make his children proud, well, he can always think of that, can't he?
Yeah. It's a pretty cool reason to be doing it.
Yeah. Definitely.
I love it. Okay, so we're going to jump into a bit of Coach's Couch now. We had a question in our Facebook group from Mickey Davis a couple of weeks ago that I thought would make quite a nice one for this time of year, because although it's a while away yet, I think from judging by a lot of the things written in the Facebook group, it's something that's on people's minds quite a lot. So if you want to read out the question, Hals.
Yep, so Mickey Davis asked this question: how many days out should I do my last long run before a 70.3?
So the first thing is, Hals, I thought it was really interesting that, like I said, people are thinking this far ahead. It's, I think, May or June time when most people are going to be doing their first 70.3s of the season, if they're up here in the Western Northern Hemisphere. Western Hemisphere. But these are the things that play in our mind. It's the sort of the sit down and do the long-term planning stuff, isn't it? We get the training done day in and day out, and then we do the planning, and we need to see a kind of a runway laid out in front of us that we're going to come down and guide the plane down onto.
Yeah, with the lights.
Exactly. So it was a good reminder to me that, I can remember back in the early days thinking that's exactly what I used to do, sketch out the plan. And even though it was February, it was really important to me to know what was going to be going on 2 weeks before a race in June. I'd have that plan in place. Yeah. So what I thought I'd do is I'll talk through, Mickey, rather than just the last long run, kind of the 3 weeks out before the half Ironman, or the 70.3, if you like, to talk you through the kind of things I would have an athlete do. So first up, to answer the question, I'd have you do your last long run 3 weeks out before your 70.3. So that would either be on the weekend, or a lot of athletes like to separate the long run and the long ride out if they've got time in the week. So with a lot of the athletes I coach, I'll have them do the long run on the Thursday and then the long ride on the Saturday, just so then you're running on fresh legs and you're riding on fresh legs, rather than, at that time of year, you're either going to have to do your long run on Saturday, meaning your legs are tired for the Sunday bike ride, or, worse, vice versa, do you end up doing your long run the day after the long bike ride. So we're trying to minimize that risk of injury and niggles effectively 3 weeks out. So I'd have you do that last long run on the Wednesday or Thursday, 3 weeks out, and I'd have it be about 2 hours long. Doesn't have to be at goal race pace, just make it nice, steady, e-pace type running as a 9-1, but get yourself on your feet for about 2 hours, about that distance out, and you've got time then to freshen up before your race. And then 2 weeks out before the race, I'd have you do the race simulation weekend, where typically you're going to do a ride building up to 70.3. You'll do a ride of about maybe a little bit shorter than the duration you're expecting to be out there on race day 70.3. So if you're expecting to be out for, say, 3 hours in your race, do sort of 2.5 hours or 2 hours 45 as a race simulation ride on the Saturday, followed by a 45-minute run off the bike. And then you'll do a long run on the Sunday. So this is one of the only times I'll give an athlete a long run, the day after a long ride. And that run will be of about 75 minutes on day 2 of the weekend. So effectively, over that weekend, you've done 45 minutes on the Saturday, 75 minutes on the Sunday. So it's about 2 hours of running again, but split it over the weekend. And ideally, do that long run very first thing Sunday morning. So if you are still a little bit fatigued, great. You're simulating the back half of your run there to build confidence for the big event. And then 1 week out from your race, I'll have you do just a 45-minute run, and 30 minutes of that is going to be at your goal race pace. So you'll have a good feel by that point what your sort of 70.3 race pace is going to be. So try and do that for a 30-minute continuous block. And that just makes a nice little sort of leg waker-upper a week out before the race. Because don't forget, although I'm saying race pace, it's not... 70.3 race pace is inverted commas not that fast compared to how fast you can actually run. So that 30-minute main set there will make a good chunk of running there. That'll give you confidence for your goal race. And if you've got absolutely no idea about how fast you're going to be running in your goal 70.3, a good guide pace is to use the pace calculator that we've got on the website, oxygenaddict.com. And on the Daniel's pace tables there, it's the M pace, which he describes as marathon race pace. That's actually a pretty good guide to 70.3 goal race pace. And I know there's people thinking, well, I'm hoping I can run faster than my goal marathon pace in the 70.3. The Daniel's pace predictor tends to give a very optimistic view of how fast someone can run a marathon, is what I'll say. So it tends to be about right on the money, so that if you do pace your race right on race day, that end pace will be a good sustainable target. It won't feel particularly hard at first, but come the 8 or 9 mile point, it's going to be a bit chewy to try and maintain that. So
you're thinking, where is that finish line?
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, Mick, if you're interested in learning more, pop over. If you go to the show notes, there's a link there to the webinar that I do that talks you through training for 70.3 and Ironman and about how the time training system can help you. Just click on the link and it'll take you to the webinar. You can watch that straight away and you click on it, or you can schedule a time to suit you to watch it. So check that out. There's a link in the show notes.
It's exciting, Rob, I think, having all the race.
It is, isn't
people.
it?
Yeah, it is exciting. I'm getting excited for people who are going to be, doing lots of exciting races this summer. Yeah, it's good to have a goal.
I was out on my mountain bike the other day, trying to learn to go down steep hills without falling off.
Training for the big thing.
You can't call it training. It's me at the top of a hill looking at steep berms going, okay, don't fall off, don't fall off, don't fall off. I'm the world's worst bike handler, Hells, I tell you.
Oh, honestly. Yeah, but practice, no?
That's exactly it, yeah. Practice. That's exactly it. That's what I keep telling myself. I can't get a lot faster, but I can acquire the skill to get downhill faster, and certainly downhill faster while staying on the bike.
My goodness. I did an hour 45 on the cross trainer in the gym on Friday.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is that like as a personal challenge to yourself, or?
I think I was ready to actually poke my eyes out by the end of it, very much so. I figured for Engadin.
Right, of course.
For the ski marathon.
I've forgotten. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
So
an
you
hour
just
and
had
45 minutes.
Another 3 hours to go.
God, oh my God. But I had
some of the time, Hells, you're going to be sliding downhill. It's going to be all right. You won't have to.
I hope
do that the whole time.
Seriously, but I had you can sort of see the park out of the window in the gym, so you can see the park covered in snow, and then I had like a virtual, you can have virtual training scenery, I guess. So I had a beach. So I was
you need to get down to Decathlon and buy yourself some cross-country skis next time it snows and actually get out and do some cross-country skiing, mate.
I know. Yeah, I know. So no, I was pretending to go along the beach, but all I could see out in front of me was snow, thinking this really is mixed up. This is screwing with my head. It's mind games, but it was good. I had blue skies.
Nice.
There you go. So yeah, this is my, excellent. Right.
All right, bit of news then. First up, the Outlaw X is now open for general entries. So that's going to take place in North Nottinghamshire's historic Thoresby Hall on the 22nd of September. That's going to be a 70.3 distance race. So I think I read that over 60% of the places have gone already with pre-registration. So if you want to be part of that on the 22nd of September, you're going to need to be pretty sharpish on the entries. Get over to the Outlaw on the website and get yourself entered into that if you fancy a bit of September racing. I think that's going to be a big one, Hells. People are always keen for a race in September, aren't they?
Oh, yeah. And they're going to have, basically you can pay for it in 2 stages, so you don't have to necessarily pay for it all up front at the same time.
I like that.
They're going to have like a campsite there, so basically a bespoke Outlaw campsite. So you'll be able to camp. And then I quite like this, Rob. It's a single lap ride.
Nice.
That's good, isn't it?
Yeah.
So
good for the scenery.
Definitely. And I know lots of people from Knutsford Tri Club have entered. There's a gang. There's a good gang that are going to be there. So
excellent.
Yeah. So should be fun.
Should be. All right, now then, one last thing I want to say thanks to everyone who's left a review of the show on iTunes. We've had another 10 more 5-star reviews this week. Hal's taken us to 162 5-star reviews. So we didn't quite hit our target of 200 5-star reviews by the end of January, but super grateful to everybody who has managed to leave a review for us. Really appreciate you taking the time to do it. And it's really had a massive effect. As I was having a nosy around in iTunes, we're regularly getting ranked number 1 in the world, Hells, if you can believe that, for triathlon podcasts. So it's amazing the effect that people leaving reviews has. So thank you very much for doing that. Now, if you remember, we said we're going to have a prize draw of all the people who left a review and then posted a copy of the review up in the Facebook group. And you were going to win a copy of the Cervelo story, To Make Athletes Faster by Anna DiPiccio. It's a beautiful coffee table book. And I did the prize draw earlier on today, Hells, did the old names into a hat and shuffled around. And the winner is, little drum roll, the winner is Jeff Partridge.
Congratulations, Jeff.
Congratulations, Jeff. We'll be in contact over Facebook to get your address and post that over to you. And thanks very much to everyone who's left that review. And if anyone else hasn't had a chance yet and you'd still like to, we would really, really appreciate it. That pretty much brings us to the end of the show, doesn't it, Hells?
Yes, it does. Next week we're going to have a special show. So listen out for that one as well on the menopause.
Good stuff. And just a final thank you to our sponsors, precisionhydration.com. Use the code OxygenAddict for $9.99's free product. Foodsell.co.uk. Use the code FreePost to get it delivered free. And also fuelbycake.com and teamoxygenaddict.com as well. So until next week, everybody, have yourselves a fantastic training and racing week. I hope you've enjoyed today's show and I hope you've taken a bit of extra motivation from listening to Terenzo's story today. We'll be back next week with our special edition. So until then, I'm Coach Rob Wilby.
I'm Helen Murray.
And you've been listening to the Oxygen Addict Triathlon Podcast. Have a great week, everybody. We'll speak to you again soon. Cheers now. See ya.